Hi everyone, my name is Giselle Corletto with the USC Military and Veterans Programs. Thank you for joining us today for the Los Angeles Veterans Collaborative. We do have a very tight agenda, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Our first guest speaker is Dr. Carl Castro, the Director of the USC Military and Veterans Programs. Carl, you have the floor.
Well, thank you, Giselle, for letting me speak today. My main topic that I want to talk about today is, as you know, the University of Southern California, SIR, then the Military Veterans Program, we have been hosting the Los Angeles Veterans Collaborative for, I think, nearly 10 years now. And, one of the things that we always struggled with is continuing the support and the funding to hold the collaborative every year. And I know a lot of people would always think, University of Southern California is a rich university, they have lots of money, etc. But we never received any funding from the university or from the School of Social Work to host the Los Angeles Veteran Collaborative. And so it was always done through the generosity of gifts or grants from foundations for us to be able to hold and host the collaborative. And and in conversations with Jim Zenner and in the LA County, they came up with an idea that I found very attractive, and that was a way to sustain the long-term health of the Los Angeles Veteran Collaborative, because my main priority has always been, and still is, that the survival and the continuance of the Los Angeles Veteran Collaborative is the most important thing in our community in order to support our veterans and their families, particularly those who move to Los Angeles for the first time and aren't from Los Angeles and understand all of the services and support that's available. And so in collaboration with Jim Zenner and others, John Sharon, we have, reached the decision point of transitioning the sponsorship of the collaborative from USC to the county. And that doesn't mean that USC will not be involved. We certainly still will remain involved and engaged, but it's just a way of putting the collaborative on, I think, a more sustainable long-term future. So it's not every year wondering how we are going to continue to support the collaborative. And so I just want to make this announcement today, and then also get feedback, because the collaborative is really owned by the community. It's not owned by the University of Southern California. It's not going to be owned by the county or anyone else. The collaborative is owned by the members. It's owned by the members, those who are on this phone call, those who couldn't make this phone call. And it's a community-owned organization. And I always saw our role at USC as simply being a caretaker, a facilitator, if we could, but we don't own the collaborative. The collaborative is owned by its members. And Giselle has done a wonderful, wonderful job, and before her others, in facilitating those folks who volunteer to participate in the collaborative. It's a totally voluntary organization, and I think that's what gives it life and breath and innovation and creativity. And so I always felt our job was to prevent other people from trying to swoop in and take it over and dictate to the members on what they will and won't do. And I've always felt that, and we've fought not a lot, but we've fought a few fights at the high level to keep people from taking over the collaborative and dictating to people what they should and shouldn't do. And I always felt that, look, I understand orders and command and control and responsibility and all of those things but that's not what the collaborative is about. The collaborative is a community ground up, not top down. And a lot of folks in the military, in particular those in government now, they always want to do a top down. And I've always fought that and said that's not what this organization is. This is a bottom up organization. And the members need to decide what's important to them and develop plans that they can implement to improve the health, life, well-being of veterans and their families. And so I think we're kind of at this point where the county is willing to invest in the collaborative in I think a very creative way that will, but most importantly, ensure its sustainability as money gets tight, as people are looking to cut programs and things like that. So I just wanted to make that announcement. I think you'll be seeing some things coming out, but I also want to open up the floor for any questions. I guess you can type them in chat. I'm not sure, Giselle, how we're doing that, but this is really a time to begin that conversation. We're not just going to like walk away tomorrow. We're not going to do the drop mic thing and leave. We will be going through a fairly lengthy transition process through May of next year with the gradual handoff so things can be as smooth as possible. It's not going to be, there'll obviously be changes with, a new host and new ideas, and that's great. Giselle sent out, I think, a draft, I don't want to call it a policy, but a draft idea of how to select our work group chairs and how work groups get formed. And I know there's always anxiety over that. And I always like to say, look, just because you have a plan, a leadership transition plan, it doesn't mean that the current leader is doing a bad job. I mean, I'm from the military. They rotate the military folks all the time, every 2 or 3 years. And I think change is good. And that doesn't mean the person that's leaving is bad. It just is allowing other folks to have opportunities. And I think that's healthy for an organization to have. But again, these are all draft documents. These are, and really you as the community need to weigh in on that and how you think it could be done. Obviously, not everyone's going to get their way. If somebody says, no, I should be able to do this for 50 years kind of thing. And if we say, well, no, we think maybe 2 or 3 years. I don't know what the right number is, but this is really for the community, you all to decide and discuss. And so we just have some things in place that provide some guidance. Not a lot of guidance. I don't like lots of rules that no one knows and no one intends to follow. So the important thing is that we continue to communicate. If there's ambiguity, if there's questions, that we're available to answer them. If we know the answers, we provide them. If we don't know the answers, we say, I don't know. And sometimes people ask me questions, and in the military, the answer always is, well, I don't know, but I'll get you the answer. And sometimes you'll ask me a question. I said, no, do I not know? I'm actually not going to look up that answer either. So I'll be very honest as well. So you're not expecting me to provide information that I don't have or won't get, because some of it would just be too difficult to get. And it's just kind of the squeeze ain't worth the juice, as one of my old bosses used to say. So Giselle, I'm going to turn it back over to you for questions if people have them. You can certainly email me, and I'm happy to answer any questions or hear any thoughts that folks have.
Thank you, Carl. I'm doing a quick scan of the Q&A in the chat, and I currently don't see any questions right now.
Okay, that means that I spoke so clearly that everyone totally understands everything that I said and what's going to happen, which is wonderful, by the way. But like I said, this is not the one and only time that you can ask questions. This is going to be an ongoing thing. I'm sure Giselle will get 1,000 questions, and Jim will get 1,000 questions, and please ask your questions. But I think that this is going to really, really put the collaborative on a really good, solid support base. And like I said, USC will still be engaged in the collaborative and participating. So I think it's a win-win situation. And Jim, I don't know, I know you're online, Jim. I don't know if we can let you make a comment or not. Giselle, if there's time to do that. I certainly don't want to get off the agenda, but I don't know if Jim wants to say anything or not.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. No, I think it's, you know, to just reiterate what you said, it's been great working with USC, and we're not going to stop our work together anytime soon. And, you know, just looking at the long-term sustainability of the collaborative and really kind of leveraging what the county has entered into with the public-private partnership with Southern California Grantmakers. We just really, county's not interested in getting into the business of leading the collaborative. Quite the opposite, actually. We want to support and make sure that the collaborative is sustained long-term to continue to be the go-to place and ground zero for veteran service collaboration, as well as military family service collaboration. And so we want to very carefully sustain and fund and support logistically, but we definitely don't want to lead the collaborative. There's just certain aspects about being a major funder, like the county, and being part of government, that we don't think it's the best fit for leadership with the collaborative. But on the other end, through the public-private partnership with Southern California Grantmakers, there's just some flexibility and some strengths that we're leveraging from the philanthropic sector that we think can be blended in and can help in the long-term sustainability as well as leadership support of the collaborative. And you know, another kind of interest that I think we particularly have around the Veteran Peer Access Network is really bringing the 55 peer support. They're going to be all over LA County, helping veterans and families navigate the systems, make sure that they're a part of the collaborative, and we're bringing real-time feedback of what's working and what's not working and where are the gaps to the collaborative. So as a group, as a collaborative, we have the best information possible as far as like what the needs are of our community and our county. So, you know, great working with you up to this point. Of course, a little biased. I graduated from USC in 2010. So it's been good working with USC ongoing. But yeah, it's really, like Carl said, like this is a collaborative ran by a collaborative, and there's no major changes that are happening tomorrow. And actually all the changes that are in front of us are going to be, need to come from this group and our community.
I do have one question from Tony Hicks. How will members be kept informed of the transition?
Through Giselle. Giselle will be at least my point of contact for all transition topics, and so Giselle, I will, you know, always sort of refer you to Giselle. She will know what's going on. She's involved in every single meeting and is working, you know, to facilitate the transition.
Yeah, and on the DMH side, I'm the point of contact for now. So any kind of major changes that are coming or anything from DMH, I'll be providing updates, and I'm always available to this group.
Jim, there is one question which I believe you may have already answered. Just want a clarification. When the transition happens, will LA County DMH be the host? I believe you said no earlier. And will they have same breakout groups? Do you know who will be hosting?
Yeah, so LA County will temporarily be, our department will be hosting temporarily until we're able to get the nonprofit formed, and the nonprofit being the LA Veteran Collaborative.
Okay.
We've been talking about the use of a fiscal intermediary, such as community partners or Southern California Grantmakers, to host that nonprofit as we get it up and going. But there more than likely will be a transition period where DMH is the host with the close support of USC. while we're working on getting the nonprofit in place and funded and everything that we need in order for it to move forward and blossom.
Okay, great. Thank you. Those are all the questions that I have for you both.
So moving into the next piece of our portion today, we've invited Kelly Armaly from Southern California Grantmakers to come give an update. Really, as far as the Veteran Peer Access Network goes, we're really, where the most work is getting done right now is through our partnership over at Southern California Grantmakers in regards to bringing on additional peers and securing a technology platform. So really, I want to give the floor to Kelly to go ahead and speak about Southern California Grantmakers and all the work that they're doing on behalf of you.
Great, thank you, Jim. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to the opportunity to speak to you today about our efforts at SCG with the VPAN. So Giselle, are my slides, there we go. So my role, just so people know, at SCG, I'm a consultant. My background is I have over 20 years of experience implementing programs with DMH contracts. So that's where my niche is. And then I'm working hand in hand with my colleague, Nate Grazer. He is the SCG's Director of Veteran Initiatives, and he is the subject expert. So he and I are working hand in hand, and he apologizes for not being available to do this presentation today. So I will do my best to do it justice. So next slide, please. There we go. Okay, so today my goal is to give you a brief background of SCG and the VPAN, and then also go into how the LAVC fits in. And it's a significant, you guys have a significant place in the VPAN and the structure. And I think that's the most important thing to get out of my presentation today, to be honest. And then next, I'll go into a brief discussion about the RFP that we posted last Friday. And then we also did an info session yesterday. So hopefully some of you were able to participate in that info session where there was more details. And then finally, the last slide will details exactly what we would like help with from the LAVC at this point in the RFP process. So as far as the RFP, if you need more details and you want more details, and you can also see the webinar, the recording of the webinar from yesterday, as well as the Q&A, please go to socalgrantmakers.org, VPAN. And I hope to allow for questions at the end of this. If you think of other questions that you may have, please email vpan@socalgrantmakers.org with any questions. And our goal is to respond within 24 hours. Next slide, please. Okay, so who is Southern California Grantmakers? I think it's important for everyone to understand that SCG has been around for more than 40 years. And the goal of SCG has been to bring grant makers together and to pool their resources around common goals to make bigger impact. And through the 40 years, they've also evolved and started more private and public collaborations. And the next phase, really, in SCG's evolution is now this new initiative to actually be a part of implementing the initiative. So, and that is through this public-private partnership with DMH. And next slide. And why this is such a good match is because SCG 7 years ago started a funders group specifically targeted for veteran issues within LA County. And basically, that group was to learn and connect and to take action and encourage other funders to consider grant making to veteran servicing organizations. And so that was 7 years ago. And then over the past 5 years, a group of them have been pivotal in putting in their input about what a peer-to-peer network could look like within LA County. And again, that's why this fit became an obvious fit for DMH with what they were trying to do in allowing the private organizations to build the VPAN from the ground up. Next slide. So many of you probably already know, but back in November 2019, the board approved a motion that gave DMH authority to contract with SCG for $13.8 million over a course of 3 years to implement a veteran peer network of programs. And the result, again, is this publicly funded, community-driven support network that's going to serve the community, the veteran community, and military families. Next slide. And I realize most, if not all of you, probably are very familiar with the VPAN mission and vision, but I thought it was important just to revisit this and to ground everyone in this. The VPAN is really about establishing rally points in civilian life. So, you know, the goal is going to be 5 rally points in the 5 supervisory districts. Again, the mission is to provide a high quality, coordinated network of care that's easily accessible. And that everyone knows about in LA County, where veterans can go and their families to access a world-class peer network. That's the mission. The vision is that every service member, veteran, and family member can easily find and access the support services and enable them to live and thrive through the community. And again, the 3 factors that we're honing in on are reducing suicide rates, homelessness, and addressing unemployment or underemployment. Those are the 3 umbrella focal points. Next slide. So where does LAVC fit in? Now you'll see here, you've got the big "You Are Here" sign. You're a significant stakeholder in this structure. And the idea here is that DMH is providing a VPAN support line. And then in every district, each of the 5 districts, there'll be a team of peers. That team will consist of DMH directly operated peers, and then the peers that we're contracting with local CBOs, 1 for each district. And we're asking them to deploy a team consisting of a program manager, 2 squad leaders, and 5 battle buddy peers. And that structure will be supported with a technology platform. And this week we're finalizing our agreement, but that platform will be Unite Us, which will help link all the services in LA County into a technology platform that the peers can access and be able to readily find the available services that are needed for a veteran or military family. And the other significant part of the technology platform is the ability to track the timing of the referrals and how efficiently and effectively those veterans are accessing the services. And that's really where LAVC comes in as well. So the idea is that there's going to be a direct communication and constant collaboration with each of the peer teams in each of the supervisory districts to the LAVC. And we'll get more into that in the next slide. But then also as a support, we're working with UCLA, and they'll be providing training and learning, and through their learning community, they'll be providing training and technical support for the peers and making sure that they have the tools they need to be successful in their positions. And next slide. So as we drill down and look at the roles of the the peers and the battle buddies that SCG is creating through their contract, you can see through this slide that the idea is that the referrals will come through the VPAN support line and then be entered in the Unitas platform. And at that point, we can track all the referrals and we can start gathering data on the effectiveness of the community and the services. And then DMH, directly operated team, will serve as air traffic coordinators. So they'll look at the referrals. Any referral that needs mental health services will remain under DMH's umbrella to get those services. And then any other type of linkages or services that are needed will then be distributed across into the appropriate supervisory district where that client is located for the battle buddies then to take and continue with that referral and that connection. And again, all this, we will be able to have a full picture of that referral from start to finish. Next slide. Next slide. There you go. And so that's where the LAVC comes into play. We're going to have this data in Unitas, and it's going to be instrumental in helping us see the picture of where the gaps are and the timing with connecting services. So the idea is that the VPAN and even non-VPAN peers and system navigators will convene at the access and engagement meetings and at the Women Veteran Working Group to discuss what's working and what's not working, and also to identify the gaps in the services that exist, as well as policy. Then the co-chairs from the working groups will attend those two meetings to take what's needed from those meetings back to their respective working groups to problem solve and to inform the people in those groups. Those reports from the co-chairs, as well as the Unitas reports, will be used to form comprehensive reports that then will be used to guide strategic funding and advocacy on policy as well as funding priorities. So that's a quick overview of the system and how LAVC fits into the VPAN. And as you can see, it's a significant role. And so we're really excited to be partners and to be collaborating in this. And I can tell you, part of the verbiage in the RFP says that the CBOs that we select, they're required to attend these meetings and to provide feedback, and they're required to use this technology. So next slide, please. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the RFP specifics. Again, I'm going to go pretty quickly, and if you want more details, please go to our website and you'll see the whole RFP and also the link to the info session from yesterday and any Q&As that we've addressed. So the highlights. So the contract between SCG and DMH started July 1st. So we really started sprinting July 1st because we feel like we have the momentum, and we are excited to start this and to show the significant impact that we can make within the veteran community. It's a 3-year contract, so we don't have a lot of time, to be honest, if you think about it, and we're already well into the first year. SCG has 4 major deliverables in this contract with DMH. The first one is to do a solicitation process and to identify 5 CBOs, 1 in each supervisory district, to deliver peer services. The other deliverable is that the technology platform will be contracted through SCG. A third deliverable is that SCG will provide and pay for all the training that the CBOs need for peer certification. And then the fourth main deliverable is obviously managing these contracts. And that includes incorporating a quality control plan and outcome data reporting. Because at the end of the day, to sustain this program, we have to be able to communicate it using data. Next slide. So the timeline, we have one of the reasons DMH contracted privately with SCG is that we're able to do an RFP process a little bit quicker than through DMH. And so you'll see here, we've got a quick timeline that we want to achieve final contract start dates with each of these CBOs by October 15th. So the most important dates at this point, like I said yesterday, we had the information session. The next most important date for anyone would be, if you have questions, please submit them as soon as possible. We're going to stop taking questions as of Friday, August 21st. And then the next most significant date to put on your calendar is the application due date, and that's Monday, September 14th at 5 p.m. And I highly recommend, if there's any organization that's interested in applying to this, to please start that online process way before September 14th, because we can't allow extensions based on technology issue or technical issues or anything like that. So please do your best, and we will be answering the VPAN question email every day. So we'll be there to support you. But again, the September 14th, 5 p.m., that's a hard date and time. And then finally, again, the goal is to have these contracts in place, and we're starting to build these services and provide them by October 15th of this year. Next slide. And so the contract funding amounts, so DMH, we're using MHSA funding, and over the course of the 3 years, each year it's about 3.7 million in total for the whole of LA County. So that means for each district, we're basically just splitting it in fives, and for each year you can see the amounts. They're really 740,000 each year. Year one will be prorated based on the start date of the contract. So for example, if we have a contract with a start date of October 15th with a CBO, the amount will reflect 8.5 months, or about 522,000. Next slide. So that's the funding. The next thing I want to talk about is staffing. And so I wanted to start off with SCG will have a small staff to run this contract. And then I'll go through the staffing with the CBOs that we're asking for. And the point of telling you guys about the staffing for SCG is we'd love to have referrals from the group, or if you know of anyone as you're learning about this and you see what we're looking for, if you say, oh yeah, I know a great person, we would love to have any referrals. So for SCG, we're looking to immediately staff a VPAN program manager, as well as a VPAN communication and project coordinator. And for the manager, again, we're looking at someone ideally would be licensed with a mental health degree, or an MBA, MPH, or MPA, and obviously having a veteran background is strongly preferred. And then the next position, the coordinator, again, having a background within the veterans Community would be fantastic. A bachelor's degree in journalism and communications would be great. And then 3 years experience in communicating in different types of platforms would be ideal. So that's for SCG. So the next slide, we'll talk about, we'll swing back to the CBOs and talk about what we're asking them to staff. So for each CBO team in each supervisory district, they're all being asked to provide the same thing. They're asked to find a program manager, 2 squad leaders, and then 5 peers. And the program manager, you'll see here, we're asking that they're a licensed mental health therapist with 2 years of supervisory experience. And just for a point of reference, the idea behind that requirement is that for the long-term sustainability for the peer program, we're hoping eventually Medi-Cal will agree to pay for peer services. And in looking ahead, assuming that will eventually happen, we will need to have a licensed mental health worker who can provide supervision. That will be a requirement. So that's why that requirement is there. Next slide. So the services that the contracted CBOs will be required to provide include evaluation and screening, outreach and case management, peer support programs themselves. Even though they will be connecting to programs, we're asking that they provide some programming themselves. Crisis management, but as it relates more to self-help and education, if it's a mental health crisis, they will be trained to divert that to DMH and DMH's staff. And the bulk of what they're going to provide are linkages and coordination. And then again, like I said earlier, we're requiring that they must collaborate and go to the meetings that we ask them to go to, which obviously LAVC is top of that list. Next slide. So as far as the service locations, one of the things we want the CBO, we SCG want to collaborate with the CBOs that we select is around identifying the most strategically placed rally point for each supervisory district. The idea is this hub and spoke system. So it might be the CBO's own location. That would be great. But again, we want to have that conversation and help identify the best place and the most strategic place within each supervisory district. And then the spokes would be the community access points. So whereby the teams, both DMH peers as well as the SCG contracted peers, will be, their home base will be at the rally point sites. They'll also be out in the community at the physical locations where veterans go for other needs so that they can make those contacts and be out there and be available to veterans. And I realize in this current time through in our current kind of restrictions, this is going to be a little tough, but once we get past this, the social restrictions, this will be a key initiative for the peers to get out in the community and really reach and be visible to the veteran population and their families. Next slide. So as I said earlier, SCG is also paying for training of all the peers. So each peer will be required to have a VA peer approved peer certification certificate. So they'll have to do that 2-week course. They're also going to have to attend a risk mitigation training. And then we have other trainings through UCLA and the VA Veteran Family Wellness Center, including veteran family peer navigation, and then some other types of trainings and just ongoing support through this center. So we're really excited to be working with UCLA to provide that ongoing support for our peers. Next slide. And then the technology platform. So like I said, we're going to be contracting with Unite Us, and SCG will be paying for the license for each CBO to have access to the Unite Us platform. And again, this is, we're really looking at this platform to help us assess the needs of the veterans, match their need to what is already out there, the providers, the different CBOs, and then to track the time of the referral in the system, how long it takes to get through the system and get connected. And the other interesting thing about Unite Us is they also require the end result, a report on what exactly happened. So if someone, if they were being referred for unemployment type of services, at the very end of that referral process and lifespan, is going to ask, so what happened? Did that person, land a job? And the peer will be required to put a response, and then we'll start collecting true outcome data, which is just significant, and again, in the sustainability of this program in future years. And I also want to note, we're not paying for the hardware, but we're paying for the licenses for each CBO. Next slide. So as far as eligibility for CBOs, there's basically, you have to make sure you submit everything in on time by the cutoff date. We also require that the CBO has a physical location within the supervisor district that they're applying for. Again, the idea is that the CBO is going to be the subject expert for veterans in that particular district. So it's important that they are there and visible and they know that district. We're also requiring 501c3 status, and then we want CBOs that have at least 3 years experience in the past 5 years providing services to veterans and military family, or coordinating the type of services that we're asking the CBOs to provide. Next slide. And then as far as the summary of desired qualifications, we understand that CBOs aren't going to have every single thing we're looking for, but when we look at evaluating and reviewing the proposals, these are some key areas that we're going to be looking for. Obviously, just knowledge of the veteran culture and resources available, both from macro level and a micro level, from an LA County level. And then, and probably, very important is experience providing services and the programming that we're asking the CBOs to provide. So you really need to have experience with outreach, linkage, case management, peer-led programs, program development around homelessness, suicide prevention, unemployment, self-care, skill building. Eventually, again, after we get done this pandemic, community events are going to be important. And then obviously, as well as just understanding women veteran issues and the assistance that they need. We also are looking for people who have experience collaborating. And as members of LAVC, I would hope you can appreciate us, looking for those types of folks who can demonstrate their collaboration efforts. And again, both with VA and the DMH county systems, as well as with other organizations like yourself and Wounded Warrior and American Warrior Partnership. And then finally, at least it would be great if the CBO has at least one board member who's a veteran, just to underscore their commitment, their organization's commitment and vision to serving veterans. The next slide. Can we get the next slide? There you go. Okay, so the proposal format, again, go to the RFP if you want more specifics, but we designed it to be as brief as possible and as straightforward as possible. And so you'll see here, the business proposal, it includes an executive summary, a description of your qualifications, a description of a proposer's approach to what we're asking for in the RFP for scope of work, and then a quality assurance plan. And you'll see in total, we're asking that it's not more than 7 pages. So we want people who are applying to really hone in on the important parts and points that we're looking for and that's spelled out in the RFP. And again, reflecting back on addressing any of those desired qualifications, really honing in on their experience on any of those topics listed under the desired qualifications slide and category. And then finally, obviously a cost proposal. And the idea here is that it's, a typical P&L type of setup from a number standpoint, and then also just a summary narrative of how you came up with those numbers, and if there's anything that's kind of out of the ordinary, why that's in your budget. And so with respect to the budget, please make sure, again, for any proposals, they need to add up and make sense. So we don't want to have to do your math for you. Next slide. And so the selection process will be a 2-stage process. The first level will be an administrative review. That's pretty straightforward, making sure you got your the proposal in on time and that you meet all those eligibility requirements and that there aren't any conflicts of interest. And then the proposal review, the rubric will be a weighted rubric and will hone in and score the proposals using the qualifications, the desired qualifications that I just talked about. The proposals will be grouped by supervisory district. And we're allowing CBOs, if they want to apply to multiple supervisory districts, they may, but they have to submit 2 different proposals because, again, we're honing in on specific issues within those supervisory districts. Obviously, there's common ones across all districts, but we also want to be mindful of the nuances within individual districts. And then the panel. So we, our goal is to comprise a panel of approximately 5 individuals per supervisory district that have unique perspectives of veteran issues within that district. Next slide, and I'll go into a little more detail on that and what we're looking for, because that's where we need your help. So what we're asking for from LAVC and our partners here, please share the RFP with organizations in your district that you feel would be well suited. Secondly, back to the positions that we have available with SCG. If you think you know someone that would be great in that position, please send us their names. We'd love to have qualified referrals. A third area would be helping organizations once we do identify the CBOs. A lot of them are going to be on a hiring, a quick hiring process, and they're going to need referrals for their open positions. And so if you have relationships with the CBOs that end up being selected and feel comfortable providing referrals for the positions that they're going to be hiring for, we welcome your input for that. And then back to the actual proposal, the RFP process and the review panel. If you know of anyone that fit any of these criteria, these are the type of people that we're looking for to build out our review panel to review the proposals per district. perhaps someone that's a pre-9/11 vet or a military family member, a post-9/11 vet or military family member, someone familiar with veteran housing, the landscape, or has experienced that process, women veterans, and then also just someone who's familiar with the unique needs in that particular supervisory district. And then finally, just please realize how important LAVC is and your organization is to the VPAN and the success of the VPAN. Next slide, I think should be my ending slide. Okay. So if you have any suggestions or support that you need, or you're asking for from us, or any of those referrals that I was asking for, please just email us at vpan@socalgrantmakers.org. And then if you want more information about the RFP itself, more details about the RFP and the online application, please go to the Southern California Grantmakers website, VPAN website. So now I'd like to open it up for questions. Oh, sorry, I went a little long. So we got a couple minutes.
I actually don't have any in the Q&A right now. The questions posted were answered via your presentation.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your time and all your support.
Thank you, Kelly. Up next, we have Tony Madril. He has a brief announcement. Go ahead, Tony, you have the floor.
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Tony Madril. I'll be as brief as possible. And what I'd like to do is to share with you some information about no-cost trauma-informed mindfulness-based cognitive therapy that's currently available for veterans. Very briefly, I have 23 years of postgraduate clinical experience. I had the honor of working with the Cohen Military Family Clinic about 4 years ago before it closed. And then that led me to a number of open doors, opportunities to work with veterans. After that, I opened up a private practice of my own, and where I continue to work with veterans. I also have a business associate that I met in the Military Family Clinic, Letitia O'Connor, who works with me as well. So you can change the slide, please. So very briefly, the basis of my study, what the study is standing upon is great need. So as you all already know, I'm talking to, preaching to the choir, there is a big issue with post-traumatic stress. We know from research that has been done that there's hundreds of thousands of veterans coming back from combat, from service, that are having problems with post-traumatic stress. We also know from the literature that having PTS or a diagnosis of PTSD significantly increases the risk of suicidal ideation, and unfortunately for many, increases the risk of completed suicides. We also know that even what's called sub-threshold PTSD symptoms may also significantly increase factors for suicidal ideation among veterans. Next slide, please. Okay, so we also probably know that once a person has suffered a particular trauma, everything changes until that trauma is processed. Some of the common symptoms of post-traumatic stress: avoidance of distressing memories, thoughts, feelings associated with the traumatic event, persistent negative beliefs about oneself and others. For example, it's all my fault, I'm bad, and hypervigilance, irritability, and angry outbursts. Next slide. The good news is that there's already been at least one study that shows that mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, which is the treatment of choice for my study, or MBCT for short, shows significant and clinically meaningful improvement of PTSD symptom severity. There was a study in 2013 conducted by Anthony King at a VA that showed after a course of MBCT treatment, veterans reduced avoidance symptoms and also reduced negative cognitions about what has happened to them. We also know from the literature that brief mindfulness interventions can also help with reducing post-traumatic stress. Next slide, please. Therefore, the two main components of the brief mindfulness-based cognitive therapy for veterans treatment that I'm offering now at no cost is cognitive therapy to help to correct and restore more adaptive thinking about the veteran themselves and the relationship to the trauma, and also paired with mindfulness meditation, which really helps to reduce hypervigilance, irritability, and emotional regulation. Next slide. So this is actually the course of treatment. So I think it's important for everyone to know who may be interested in referring someone what the veteran will get every session. So there's 4 formal therapy sessions. Prior to that, there's pre-treatment interview, and that is to explain to the veteran what to expect, to get a little understanding of the PTSD symptoms that they're dealing with, and to ensure that there's a match between the treatment and their particular mental health needs. If there is a match, I administer the pretest. Everything is done electronically, including every one of the sessions. So I send them over a link, a Qualtrics link, and they fill it out. Most of the veterans I've worked with so far, they qualify. I do have a safety net so that if they score a little bit below what's considered a positive score on this PTSD questionnaire, I can still allow them into the study. But so far, there's no need for that. They all qualify, you know, without a doubt. So once they qualify, they go into session 1, which focuses on safety and stabilization. So really giving them an understanding of their post-traumatic stress symptoms, how the therapy can be helpful, and it's also a time to build that therapeutic relationship. We call it a therapeutic container for them, which will help them in the next 3 sessions to be able to work through some of the trauma. In that session, I also introduce present moment awareness techniques. So the therapy already starts in the first session. We do lots of mindfulness practice that helps them to refocus the mind away from traumatic memories, thoughts of the past or a future, onto the present moment. Session 2 is identifying the connection between automatic thoughts and beliefs and worsening trauma symptoms. So this is the C part of the MBCT. So that entire session is devoted to teaching that veteran a little bit about cognitive behavioral therapy, the relationship between what we call automatic thoughts and distressing emotions and distressing body symptoms. Session 3, this is the session where we return back to mindfulness, and I help the veterans to actually identify distressing emotions, distressing body sensations that may be happening during the meditations, and to practice learning to be open to them, learning to be with them as opposed to suppressing them, trying to escape from them, but with my guidance and presence to help them and the tools of mindfulness to simply be with them. And then we know through the literature that when this happens, the shift in perspective in relationship to distressing emotions and body sensations, usually those PTSD symptoms start to subside. The last session is inviting the veteran to practice how to actually invite in, yes, I'm almost done, lower level distress, whether that be in the form of a traumatic memory, a distressing emotion or body sensation, and then teaching them the skills of working through the body. That's the final session. There's a follow-up session where I administer the post-test to see if there's any positive change based on the intervention. Hopefully there is, and then I provide them linkage to ongoing no-cost treatment. Next slide, please. This is the last slide. Okay. If anyone is interested, there's my email address, my office phone. I would love to engage anyone who might have questions, including veterans. If veterans want to learn more about it and get to know me online, I'll set them up with the Zoom meeting for that. So thank you for your time, and have a great day.
Thank you, Tony. Up next, we have Kristen Larace, Casting Director. She's just going to make a brief announcement.
Hello? Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Do you see me?
No.
Oh, I'm trying to undo my video and it won't let me. Okay. There we go. Hi! Can you all hear me? Okay, so I am casting a new Netflix show where we are looking to highlight veterans or active military, celebrate a big moment in their life, whether it's a birthday, a baby shower, a wedding, a welcome home party, a housewarming party. So we're looking for a friend or family member to nominate a veteran or active military member that lives in the LA or Orange County area. And then we have celebrity chefs come and surprise the event with amazing desserts to make the event that much more memorable and special. So we hope to be able to highlight some amazing veterans or active military members in the LA or Orange County, like SoCal area. So if you know anyone, I would love for you to contact me or go to our website and apply and nominate these amazing people. We're just looking for deserving people in the community. Obviously, that's our military, to highlight on this show. So if you guys know of anyone, I'd so appreciate for you to apply and nominate them. Do I have any questions? Hello?
There's no questions right now, but we'll definitely connect them to you on the follow-up email. So if you have any questions for Kristen, please make sure to reach out and I'll connect you to her with her through the follow-up email. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We're very sorry we went a little bit over. All the work group links are listed on the meeting agenda that was shared with everybody in the registrant email. Please make sure to look at that. And if not, please make sure, if you did not register, make sure to reach out via email and somebody will get that list to you. Thank you, everybody, for all the wonderful work that you do in the community. I'd like to thank our guest speakers, Carl Castro, Jim Zenner, Kelly Armaly, Tony Madril, and Kristen Larace. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you all next month.